We have Councillor Stewart. And I think we're missing David as well. I'm just going to email her the link, just in case. Yes? I don't know. I don't recognize that. Maybe it's Councillor Bruno or maybe Councillor Han's husband's name. We'll have to.
What we're doing, you know.
Now, we're gonna have to watch out for feedback.
Hi there. Oh. Gary's iPad. Yes, I want to ask. Hi there. We do have a Gary's iPad in. I'm just wondering whom this is.
It's Gary Bruno from Port Colborne.
Oh, thank you very much. We're just going to rename you to Councillor, to your Councillor name, please. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have it as 6:01, and we are recording and we are live streaming, and I do see that we do have a quorum here, and Councillor Stewart has arrived, so if you wish, you may begin.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk, and I will do so. Good evening, councillors, members of the SLT, and the viewing public. We are here today. I see we have quorum. So we are here for a regular council meeting for Monday, December 14th, 2020. And as I see we have quorum, I call the meeting to order. I turn to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I do have a motion put forward by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Be it resolved that the agenda be amended to include the addendum item within agenda item 13 being the amendments to the sign bylaw. Looking for any discussion?
Not seeing any.
Seeing none, I will call the vote with Councillor Han.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olsen. Sorry, Councillor Olsen, I think you're muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. I do have the motion put forward by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Be it resolved that the agenda for the December 14, 2020 regular meeting of council be adopted as amended. I will again start with Councillor Han.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olsen.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The agenda has now been adopted.
Thank you.
Bringing us to disclosure of pecuniary interests.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. After viewing the agenda, is there any councillor that has a pecuniary interest and general nature thereof to declare? I see Councillor Wink.
So just a matter of clarification, we're going to be asked to, let's see, do minutes approval at 8.2.1. Within those minutes, I declared a pecuniary interest. However, I was around for the rest of the agenda. So do I have to declare at this point in time, or can we go forward?
Madam Clerk.
Oh, I see that the CAO wishes to respond.
Okay, Mr. CAO.
Well, I do have the answer, but in fact, it's a good, I shouldn't have put up my hand. I'm sure the deputy clerk was about to get that right.
That puts me on the spot.
This
Through you,
isn't-
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to indicate that that is part of the consent agenda and that you would be able to vote on all of the other matters at hand as you were privy to them, unless the CIO has anything further to say.
The piece I might add is that when you're approving minutes, you're actually just approving that the words on the paper are accurately reflect the things that were said. So it doesn't actually bring conflict analysis into it. For instance, it's saying, amongst other things, that you declared a conflict. You either did or didn't. You feel you did, so you'd want to approve those minutes. You can do that. That's merely a procedural rather than a substantive item.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on the agenda? Oh, no, I'm sorry, pecuniary interest. Any other items on pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? I'm not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. I have so noted.
Okay, thank you. Before we continue with the agenda, there's a few items that I want to address. During the town's previous council meeting of December 7th, I had a hot mic incident. During this meeting, I uttered a phrase that should never be used by any elected official, and certainly not in the public domain. I apologize if anyone heard this and was offended. 12 residents had heard, blah, 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 and may do my utmost that it does not happen again. So again, I apologize for that hot mic incident. Sometimes when you're sitting over a long meeting, you forget that the mic is there and the mic is on. So again, we'll move on. Also, shout out to Cynthia Roberts, who is Vice Chair of the town's Beautification Committee, who organized committee members along with volunteers from the Pelham Garden Club and also volunteers from the community at large to fasten the green wreath onto the large streetlights on the main streets of the town. The greenery and bows were supplied by the town, and Leah Letford of our Recreation Department assisted in the effort. That has become quite a tradition in this town, and it certainly adds to the festive atmosphere around the town. One other note, Jennifer Dubé of Pelham Cares sent in the final numbers of the Pelham Cares food drive. The sad item is that 35% less food was donated than normal. The great news is that the monetary donations were up a whopping 60%. To make this drive the success it was, every week for 5 weeks, 60 volunteers were scheduled for 3.5 hours per week, utilizing the help from some 300 volunteers altogether. Using the MCC as a heated collections drop-off, and let me turn the page here. You can't lick my fingers. Sorry. Made the ordeal of sorting and packaging that much easier. So again, a great thank you to the Pelham Cares organization, and of course to all the volunteers that made it possible, and to all the residents that again stepped forward and made great donations. On behalf of the council and town staff, thank you very much. To you, Holly.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. We do have our first presentation of the night, which is the 2020 Town of Pelham Holiday Cards, and we do have a presentation that we're just going to share on our screen, and presenting it is Mr. Ryan Cook. He's the Acting Director of Rec and Culture and Wellness.
Okay, Mr. Cook, you have the floor.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is regarding our annual Christmas card design competition. This went out in November on various social media feeds and to all our elementary schools, all the Town of Pelham elementary schools. Due to COVID, it was a little bit different this year. We asked that submissions were digitally sent to us instead of traditionally it's in paper form. Pelham Art Committee selected the top 12 to be included in the official Town of Pelham Christmas card that we hand out to staff and around. So here we go. This is Mira, age 11. This is our cover Christmas card cover winner. Next.
Nice.
Cozy Christmas. This is Emily, age 11. Next. Next actually isn't winning anything, but Sarah, there's someone behind the scenes flipping these things for me. I could not figure out how to do this. Happy Holidays is Madeline, age 11. Next. Another Happy Holidays. This is Brooke, age 11. Next. Merry Christmas Penguin is Zach, age 11. Anna Lee, age 10, drew a wonderful picture of a sleigh, and we all noticed the Pelham symbol on that one. Next. Maud, age 11, Be Jolly Christmas snowbloom. Next. Isabel, age 12, Merry Christmas, Town of Pelham, and there is a mask on those gingerbread men there. Next. Lucy, age 10, bunch of little animals in a scarf. This was my youngest daughter's favorite one, for obvious reasons, I guess. Trinity, age 8. This is a very interesting one, actually. I was told that this was a mixed media card graphic design, so Pelham Art Committee really liked this one as well. Next. Kathleen, age 11. Nice little Christmas theme. Next. And Nathan, age 11. Same kind of cozy Christmas feeling on this one. And that's it. Congratulations to all taking part and helping us spread a little Christmas joy in this kind of COVID year.
Thank you, Ryan, for this. It never ceases to amaze me, the talent we have in our elementary schools coming up with these cards. Congratulations to the winners, and to all of the students, safe and Merry Christmas. Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that council receive the presentation. Oh, I apologize. We don't need to have a resolution for this one. This was just a presentation. And the winners will be receiving packages of the cards and a thank you chocolate bar, which is being forwarded through the administration.
Okay.
We therefore would move on to the next presentation, which is in regards to the airport with Councillor Hahn, and we are just putting up her airport's presentation. And we do have fellow councillors from neighboring municipalities that are in association with the airport attending the meeting as well.
Okay, commissioners, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an overview of our local municipal airport, the Niagara Central Dorothy Rundling Airport, located here in Pelham. With us tonight, we have our chair, Councillor Van Vliet, our co-chair, Councillor Bruno, Councillor Moot from Welland as well, and Nancy Giles, our bookkeeper. Turn the next slide, please. Oh, no. Okay, there, good, thanks. Between 1942 and 1945, this airport was created as a British Commonwealth Air Training Plan airport to train pilots during World War II. After that time, until the 70s, the airport was owned and operated by the federal government, then sold to 4 municipalities, Welland, Port Colborne, Wainfleet, and Pelham. And those council representatives then from those 4 municipalities form the governing commission. Our airport has been used for multiple types of training, including private, commercial, local, and foreign pilots as well. In 2015, the Niagara Central Airport, as it was called, was renamed the Niagara Central Dorothy Rundling Airport in honor of the aviation pioneer from Pelham. She was hailed as one of Canada's most experienced air racers, winning many awards, and also received the Order of Canada in 2003 for her contributions to aviation. Next slide, please. This slide gives you a breakdown of all the members of our commission. 4 municipalities, as I mentioned, Welland, Port Colborne, Wainfleet, and Pelham, of course. And this really highlights the amount of years of experience that we have on our commission. So although there are some new faces for certain, we have some folks having 23 years total experience of leadership as a councillor, 19 years, a fourth-term councillor. Ron Bodner was even a mayor for a few years. So we've got a lot of experience, a lot of great folks to make up a really good team on this, this commission. Move forward, please. Our airport is actually a registered aerodrome. It's an aerodrome because it's not certified airport, it's a registered aerodrome. So what that means is when you think of most airports, you think of a big control tower. We don't have a control tower. We do have the latest technology in GPS approach, of course. We've added that, actually our commission added that, but the onus still remains on the pilot to determine whether it's safe for use. Aerodromes in Canada, there's essentially a few things that need to be done in order to move from an aerodrome to an airport, some of which are that they have to be located within a built-up area of the town or city, can be used as an air carrier, a main operations base for scheduled passenger service, or if the minister, in fact, decides to make that change in certification in the interest of the public, based on the number of aircraft movements per year. So in other words, it'd be very busy to move it into an airport status. Next slide, please. In 2002, our airport was that was the first time that we decided to construct hangars, and of course that allowed for maintenance activities and storage of aircraft. We are now up to 13 new buildings on our site. We've got 31 tie-down rental spaces, and we've really tripled our capacity over the past 15 years. There are 2 paved runways, and we also have a turf runway, which was recently revitalized, that was used back in the day in the training days at World War II training days. Next slide, please. So today we've got 5 enterprises, commercial enterprises. We've got skydiving, we've got flight school, St. Catharines Flight School. We've got a repair service, maintenance service, and we've got a Sipiter Radar has a research lab. The state-of-the-art research lab is there as well for radar. We are also home to the 87 Eagle Squadron Air Cadets, and hundreds of cadets have learned gliding activities there on the field, and every spring and fall they participate in that. We are also home to COPA Flight 149, and that's the local chapter of the Canadian Owners and Pilots Association. The hard surface runways have been rehabilitated at this airport. Due to the efforts of our COPA 149, who we work very well with, this abandoned runway, as I mentioned, was revived as a turf surface. And also too, working with COPA 149, our commission working with them has renovated an equipment storage facility recently. And as mentioned, we also have added the GPS approach technology, which was added just recently. Yes. We're very proud to have been the terminus of the 2019 Air Race Classic, or ARC as it's known. This is an international women's racing event consisting of over 55 pilot teams. This race starts in the States down in Tennessee, and it traveled over 3,800 kilometers through several airports in the States, worked its way back up into Canada, and then it finished at our airport. So we're proud to have that as the finish. And it's the first time in 90 years, actually, since 1929, that it actually finished in Ontario. It was estimated at about $650,000 impact to the local economy, bringing all the pilots and their families and tourists and such to the area for shops and restaurants and hotels and different entertainment venues. Next slide, please. Oh, you went. Yeah, we go. Thanks. On the left-hand side of your page, you'll see a plaque. And when they were judging, that plaque was actually in the namesake of Dorothy Rundling, was actually at the entrance of our airport. There's 2 pillars, and that's now mounted on one of our pillars. We're very proud of that. And that was unveiled in June. And then on the right-hand side, this council may remember me talking about painting out there at the airport. And that was the Compass Rose. So you'll see a nice shot of the Compass Rose there right in the center. And that was the 99s project that they had done right before they had the air race. And that's a dedication. And it's also very handy. Not only is it very attractive from the sky, it's also very handy when the air ambulance lands. They use it as a kind of a target area to land, the air ambulance. It's a safe area for them to land. So I'm going to turn this over now to my colleague on the commission, Adam Moot. Next slide, please.
Hello, Your Worship and councillors. Thanks for having us here today. I know I'm starting halfway through the presentation, but I just wanted to say hello to all of you before I continued. So Aside from the municipal subsidy, which Pelham gets, revenues are derived from hangar land leases and tie-down rental fees and fuel sales. The current commission has reduced and held a zero municipal subsidy, including for the upcoming 2021 year. So our goal is to reduce the subsidy over the term of this council. I think that was one of our first orders of business, that we want to be self-sufficient as a airport. So we don't want to be asking for municipal funding every year, but it's a long road to hoe when you've operated for a certain way so many years. Next slide, please. But to get to that level, we've made many changes since we've all joined the commission. Some changes in 2020 and 2021. So we've reduced administrative costs, including meeting expenses, office expenses, auditing expenses, and payroll remittances. We have new fueling accountability. So I think that'll be on the next slide. But basically, in the past, the pilot would get their plane next to the air fuel gas station, basically, and an attendant would fill it up. Now it's automated with a credit card, and it's all automated. So it does two purposes. It takes away or it reduces cost for us as the airport, but it also provides more clarity when it comes to accounting purposes for how much gas we've been selling. We've moved to electrical metering, separation from the tenant, and upgrades in LED lighting. We have hangar road access extended and completed. We've been a commission since 1945, and this year one of our staff members realized that more than half of our property is farmed, thus allowing us to apply to the farm credit tax, which we now have done, and that's reduced our property taxes by approximately $10K this year. We've restructured waste handling. We've reduced annual operations by restructuring daily operations, and we've beautified the area a little bit with a tree berm along the entranceway. Next slide, please. So this is the gas station I was mentioning. So this is 24-hour self-service fuel. Previously, operators or pilots were only able to fuel up when there was an attendant on site. Now pilots will be able to fly into our airport at any given time and fuel up because all they have to do is scan their credit card and off they go. So one of the challenges that the pilots had mentioned in the past was after 5 or 7 o'clock, I forget what time it was, pilots from neighboring municipalities or neighboring airports would fly past our airport to go to a place where they could fuel up at any time of the day. And it seems to me, I'm not a pilot by any means, but it seems to me that pilots are similar to fishermen. They like to get up and at them before the day starts. So this has simplified getting fuel for them and any time of the day that they are flying. Next slide, please. So there's been much discussion about what's the actual benefits of an airport for a municipality. Well, when we've looked at it, we only have a 2014 study to look at, but we have estimated that there's a $4.5 million contribution to the local economies. There's the air ambulance access, which helps severely injured patients get to the health services that they need. There's the attraction visitation. So we have Niagara Skydive. I don't know, I guess Councillor Hahn and Councillor Hildebrandt would see a lot of the flights taking off, but many of them in the summertime are the skydive folks. Property taxes, I believe they go to Pelham. And even the municipal subsidy that the other 3 municipalities, all of it is going to the greater good of all of our municipalities, but it is Pelham who benefits from having the actual airport within their limits. There's transportation for residents, visitors, and businesses. So, we are, as Councillor Hahn said, a registered aerodrome, but there's great potential to facilitate transportation or our airport as a hub for goods, tourism, business travel, and commercial growth. And local pilots use our airport for recreational and commercial aviation. One point that I forgot to, or that I drafted this presentation when I presented to Regional Council, I think in early 2019. We also have the ability to have pilots land on the Welland River. So that's another method that our airport can provide to pilots if they so choose to fly that way. So yeah, basically back to this current slide. With the economic health and growth of this airport, we can attract new businesses, improve the region's stability with larger international markets. Next slide, please. And what does it look like tomorrow? So Councillor Van Vliet, who's on this meeting right now with us as well, we attended a forum in 2019 hosted by the Southern Ontario Airport Network. And they estimated that air travel is going to grow by 36% by 2041. At that presentation, they said that Pearson International is at capacity, and all of their extra capacity is going to Hamilton currently. And that capacity is quickly filling up, and they're looking for other areas of opportunity to expand. So the most logical places would be St. Catharines and Welland. However, what we benefit from that the St. Catharines Airport doesn't is we have available lands to accommodate new hangars, new businesses opportunities. So keep that in mind when we're talking about that. Also, this has been discussed probably longer than I've been alive, but the Mid-Peninsula Transportation Corridor has always been a topic of conversation. My MP, I should say, Vance Badaway, has been a strong supporter of getting this Mid-Peninsula Transportation Corridor established, and hopefully with, in conjunction with the province and local municipalities, that will become a reality. Which, if you've looked at any of the maps, it looks like that Mid-Pen corridor will run very close by the airport, which would also make this airport an even more interesting business opportunity for those that may be interested. So I already mentioned that there's room for growth, including the demand for hangars. Next slide, please. And that's it. Questions? We have myself, who authored this presentation initially. We also have Councillor Gary Bruno from Port Colborne. He's been doing a lot of work with the budget, along with Nancy Giles, one of our staff members. And we have our chair, Councillor Van Vliet, as well. So any questions? I had a couple that came from Mayor Junkin himself. So please ask away, and we'll do our best to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you very much, the airport commissioners, for taking the time to come to Pelham and make this presentation. As you know, we deferred discussions on the airport budget, or the airport portion of the town's budget. We wanted to hear from the presenters. So a lot of the questions you will hear tonight, I expect, are going to be relative to your budget projections. And first off, I see Councillor Olson has his hand up. Councillor?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, commissioners, for the presentation. In preparation for this meeting, I had an opportunity to meet with Councillor Van Vliet at the airport on Friday. And I'd studied quite a bit about your minutes and your reports, and of course the financial statements were of great interest to me. One of the things that comes up frequently in your minutes and in your reports is a question of the role of airport commissioners, and I'm wondering if that indicates that a misunderstanding about the status of the airport commission.
Anyone want to, perhaps you should go a little
I would
further,
ask Councillor
Councillor?
Van Vliet then.
Oh, okay. Councillor Van Fleet then, could you answer that, please?
I don't think we're questioning our authority. We just want to confirm exactly where it stands. And only because, over this commission, and I was on the last commission as well, the last commission, it was never really questioned as to our authority. This commission here, including some from the city of Welland, we've been questioned as to our authority. So we looked at it and we said, like maybe we should look a little closer at this. We actually did allot money for it. We found though that we don't need that money. In talking to the area clerks, one of the things that we felt was that we could basically use the policies and procedures that are dictated by the local municipalities. And really, there's when it comes to those procedures and policies, there's not really a lot of difference whether you come from Port Colborne, Wingfleet, Welland, or Pelham. They're all pretty much the same. But when people start questioning it, you have to come up with an answer, and you have to be looking at it, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the financial statements. I note that in the financial statements, you have in the bank some $245,000 in what I expect to see in November. Included in that is, and we're looking for a grant from the community of Pelham here, including $80,000 for depreciation. Now, I normally wouldn't consider depreciation to be a number there, but 250,000 plus in cash indicates to me that we really should not give you a grant this year and ask you to postpone the grant or take a pause in the grant and get back to funding you through actual expenses and not a budgeted number. So that's what I would submit to you, and I submitted that to you on Friday, and you said you'd give that some consideration.
Any comments?
Certainly, if I may, Mr. Mayor, certainly we have talked about it a little bit, not with all the commissioners. Unfortunately, we haven't had a meeting in the interim. But in looking at it, you have to remember that a lot of that money that we have in the bank is borrowed money, as you are well aware. We borrowed it from the 4 municipalities for various reasons, including runway upgrades and septic system upgrades. Those septic system upgrades, the region could drop the hammer on us basically at any time. We are talking to them about the upgrades for the septic system, but if we needed to do that, those septic systems, we need most of that money.
Okay, I'm not sure that I agree, Mr. Mayor, but through you again, and one of the loans that you've taken out is a CEBA loan. And that would have been $40,000, and as of December the 4th, you would have taken that out, another $20,000, bringing you to 60. And you and I talked about this, and we agreed to disagree on Friday about it. But one of the first questions on the application for the CEBA loan, the borrower confirms that it is not a government organization or body or an entity wholly owned by the government, a government organization or body. That is the first question, and I'm wondering how that was answered. And obviously it was answered that it was, you confirmed that you were not one of those things.
Mr. Van Fleet?
I looked at that particular application, and I don't recall seeing that question, and I'm not going to belabor the point that it was or wasn't there. But to the best of our ability, we did answer it, and I know there was a lot of conversation back and forth between the federal government who initiated the CERB loans as to whether we were eligible or not, and it went through. The way we answered it, we did our best for it. Those CERB loans, by the way, the $30,000 is put away specifically for paying that back. The plan is and if we, okay, we'll just stay with the 40,000 for now. The $30,000 is set off to a side, and that will be paid back in September of 2022. We're not going to let it go through the lame duck period. We want it paid back before the next commission takes on. We may all be here as commissioners. None of us may be here as commissioners. It has to be paid back. So subsequently, it will be paid back beforehand. But to the best of our ability, we did our best to answer all the questions as honestly as possible. How that particular question was answered, I don't know, but I know there was a lot of discussion back and forth between the federal government, and we were approved.
Any more questions, Councillor Olson, before I move on?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Well, the premise for that loan was for non-recoverable funds, where if you spent money and you couldn't recover them. I don't see how that works when we are funding the airport in total. So those funds are not they're not non-deferrable type expenses. That's just money. And also, I'm wondering about what authority the airport thinks it has to encumber the town by taking out a loan in the airport's name. I don't think you have that right.
Well, I would disagree with you. Yes, we do have that right. As before, we borrowed money from the municipalities. We've borrowed money, and that there is basically we borrow it on behalf of the airport from the municipality. So we have borrowed money in the past. As far as the I forget where I was going there, but yes, we have that authority to borrow it. We've questioned that legally. We have the authority to borrow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll yield the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Before I go to another councillor, Mr. Van Vliet, I'd like to go back to the question of the commission trying to establish their authority. I believe this September you spent $5,000 for outside legal advice. If this council so desires, would you be willing to share that report with us?
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for asking that question. Yes, we approved the $5,000, but we never spent the $5,000. We decided in between the two meetings that we really didn't need to spend that $5,000, and that $5,000 is sitting comfortably in the bank.
Well, that is a very nice surprise. Thank you for that. I appreciate the commission not spending that money. There was a ruling made by the ombudsman in 2013, and I'm sure that anyone who's been on the commission for more than one session remembers that ruling, where they outlined quite clearly that the Airport Commission is a local board. That's exactly how the ombudsman put it. So it is nice to see that. Hopefully, that is the groundwork that you're basing all your work at the airport on. At this time, I will open any other questions from any councillors. I see Councillor Wink.
So through you, Mr. Mayor. So you're projecting a $31,300 surplus this year, but still asking, and obviously that will go into cash or pay down debt, but you're still asking for the same amount of money. So you've been able to do really well with what you had, but you're still asking for more. The other point I'd like to make is you earn an awful lot of money on rentals. How often are those rents negotiated, and when was the last increases on those rents?
Leo? Oh, maybe I see Gary Bruno. Bruno, you want to answer that?
Okay, Gary.
Thank you, Mayor Junkin and members of council. Thanks for the invite tonight. It's a great question. The leases, all of which we've inherited, because those 12 hangars were there by the time our term started. They all are 20-year land leases. So the hangar owners have built the building and pay us a land lease. The land lease has a built-in factor in it. You could call it CPI. It varies from year to year. And so there is an escalator clause that brings us more money each year. And we're now looking at to see if that base lease is right. As those 20-year leases, as you can imagine, all came on board at different times. They're all anniversarizing on their 20 years at different times. So as they anniversarize and come up for renewal, we'll be looking at the new terms that are in some of our more current leases. Example, 20 years ago, the insurance coverage we asked for wouldn't be the same as today. And we'll be relooking at those escalator clauses. So it certainly is an area of income for us. And we see it as a future area where we can increase the income from the airport and concurrently lower the subsidy. I hope that answers your question.
Councillor Wink.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Bruno. I think I prefaced my remarks about the $31,300 surplus that's being estimated, and how's that going to impact on the municipal grants going forward if you're going to start having surpluses.
Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Interesting about that surplus for this year. I don't want to underplay this or overstate it as a way of shoring up grants or keeping them stable. What we did discover was a number of years ago, there was an incident at the airport where two planes taxiing had a small collision. And in doing so, there was some fuel spilt. The airport, in its wisdom then, and rightfully so, did the immediate cleanup and had bills incurred. And then it went to an insurance claim, Councillor. And as such, that claim has been ongoing to the extent that it's finally worked its way through to what our auditors have now proved as a real receivable. So although we don't have that money yet, it is expected that we will get it in the first quarter. I say that only because it's really something that over the years, various commissions have paid a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit towards the lawyer, and not booked it as a receivable. And I guess to our, I wouldn't say surprise, but to our good fortune, it is landing on us this coming year. But we don't have it yet. And as you could imagine, this year is an estimate, and we still have December. And I'd like to get a more firmed up number when we have our audit in January and February. I know that might not suffice for tonight, but I don't think the number will be quite that. But it is a one-time anomaly as we see it.
Councillor Wink.
No, thank you, Councillor, for those comments.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions by any councillors? I see Councillor Olson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was wondering about. We've asked for apparently the town has asked for a master plan for the airport lands, identifying the locations of structures and new structures to ensure that the future development meets the requirements for fire access, maneuvering and circulation around the buildings and landside uses. And this was requested a couple of years ago of the commission, and I'm wondering where that stands.
And I see Councillor Moot wants to answer that.
Thank you, Your Worship. So that, I don't want to speak for my other councillors, but that's the first time I've heard of that request. Maybe the chair could answer that more fully. But I do know that Niagara Region, and your worship, you may be familiar with this too, is undergoing a strategic plan with respect to the airport. So they are going to do a full-on review of the airport, buildings, runway, all of that stuff, and they're going to, put it on the books and say this is what the airport's comprised of. This is what it's valued at. So we don't have that information yet, but a process is underway to get the most up to date with respect to our airport for all of those questions, Councillor Olson.
Councillor Olson?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So is that the business plan study that was to be done? I believe it came out of rising out of the Jacobs report. Is that what that is?
Councillor Moot?
Through you, your worship, I'm not sure what the Jacobs report is. Councillor, I'd like to ask Councillor Van Vliet if he knows what that is. He has the longest tenure.
Councillor Van Vliet?
As you are aware, I only came on the commission in March of 2017, so a lot of this stuff is still prior to my tenure on. Okay. I only became the chair for this term.
Thank you.
So your worship, through you, if Councillor Olson could give us a more accurate or specific date when those requests were made. None of us seem to know when they were. So, were they made in 2016 or were they made in 2010? I don't know. But if he could advise us on that, we could find that information.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it seems to me like that the logical thing is to say that we begin today and say this is what we need: a master plan for the airport. When we need a capital budget, I think that's the reasonable thing to do, rather than debate the origins of these requests. I've looked at page 55 on the transportation plan, and it indicates some rather large capital expenditures beginning very shortly to bring the airport up to standard. And if I may, I talked to Councillor Van Vliet about this, and he said that included some things that would probably never happen, such as a control tower and things like that. But a realistic fixed asset plan would be useful as part of a bigger business plan, I think.
Anyone on the commission I see Leo, you want to answer that?
I make you a promise right now that we will start working on that first of the new year. And Mr. Olson, I don't know how long it's going to take, but we will be working on it, and we will report back to you periodically.
Thank you.
Okay. So going on that, I've got a few comments that I would like to make. Being a previous councillor from 2014 to 2017, and also being on the Region Council since 2018. Number one, of course, this commission obviously is aware that all four municipal owners have passed resolutions asking the Niagara Region to upload this facility. And as Mr. Van Vliet has just mentioned, or perhaps it was Councillor Olson, they are undertaking the study. So I guess the question is, being one of the owners, have you signed any more leases, 20-year leases, which could encumber the process of the region taking us over since 2016? And will you respect those resolutions and keep them in mind at least until this whole thing is settled of the uptake? Mr. Van Vliet, could you answer that, please?
I don't believe we've signed any long-term leases since that. We have taken the attitude since we became a commission, since we got together, that we would proceed as if nothing was happening with the region. We felt that it was wrong for us as a commission to just sit back on our hands and do absolutely nothing. We felt that we should move ahead. That way, if the region decided not to move ahead with airport takeovers, at least we would still be in the process of moving forward. To sit on our hands and do absolutely nothing was not what we were elected for or appointed to the airport commission for. We were appointed to it to try to make it better. We as a commission made a promise to ourselves back in early this year, 2020, I'm sorry, that we were going to reduce the requests of funding from the municipalities. Unfortunately, 2 months after that, COVID came along. Our fuel sales are way down. We've had to supplement some of the rental agreements through the rent reduction program. So it hit us pretty hard, and I think that our people have done an extremely good job just by keeping the requests for the municipalities where they are. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Mayor.
Let's say in a roundabout way, the resolution is still there, and the region has still to make a decision on that. Thank you for that, though. Another comment, you lightly touched on the troublesome septic system that the airport has. I was talking to a regional official who had done a preliminary evaluation of your system. I was talking to him about something else. His name was Phil Lambert, whatever. And he mentioned that it was his recollection that the airport has a no-build policy until the septic issue is addressed. Would you agree with that, Mr. Van Fleet?
I believe that is correct, but it's not a no build. It's we can't add any more washrooms to it. We have a number of facilities there or of hangars there that have no washrooms in them, whether they use a portable potty or a chemical toilet or go to the local Tim Horton, that's up to them. But a lot of the hangars do not have washrooms in them, and we can't hook more washrooms to the septic system until such time as this whole situation has been resolved.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. Moving on to the, first of all, before I continue, I don't want to hog this conversation. Is there any other questions that I'll yield to if any counselor has any other questions or comments? Okay, not seeing any, then I'll go ahead, Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of comments. I see having an airport in a municipality as a winning situation. The amount of money that we contribute, and which they say will become less over the next years, is far below the amount of tax revenue we get. And besides the tax revenue, there's a definite economic spin-off to our community for the restaurants and places for people to stay. And as an asset in our community, it will only become more valuable in years to come. That's all.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments, questions from any of our further councillors? Yeah, if not, I just got a few other things I want to touch on. The hangars that are non-aviation, you all belong to town councils, whether it's Welland, Port Colborne, Pelham. And as you know, we have zoning bylaws in place. So when you guys are doing aviation hangars, I take it that is for airplane construction, maintenance, storage, whatever they are. I don't mind telling you that when you start getting into non-aviation hangars, I think as a town, that this town has every right to know the leases and what those hangars are being used for. Because I know 2 hangars, and I'm not going to mention what they're being used for, but they are quite against Pelham zoning bylaws. What's your answers on that? And I see Councillor Hahn.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by non-aviation hangars, in that Every hangar we're aware of is in some way, shape, or form related to aviation. And they have either planes being stored in them or planes that are being used that are being stored in them. But they're all filled with aircraft. So I'm not sure when you say non-aviation, what it is you're referring to.
Well, like I say, I don't, I'm certainly not going to say it here because I haven't been inside of them, but I know when you say non-aviation, at least 2 of those hangars are definitely non-aviation. Councillor Moot?
Thank you, Your Worship. So as Councillor Bruno had mentioned earlier, and due to the limitations of the septic with our septic limitations overall, we anticipate no further hangars being constructed right now. And as it stands, we've inherited all these leases anyways. So if we knew what kind of purposes were being held at those hangars, that would be greatly appreciated. But when we do our meetings at the airport, the pilots like to chat. They like to share experiences with us as a commission, amongst themselves. And I have not heard from any of those pilots about any non-aviation hangars. Maybe the other councillors have a different information, but that's my understanding.
Okay. And I see someone has their hand up, and I can't read from Fort Colborne. Well, Bruno, you changed on the board. Go ahead, Councillor Bruno.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, it would be helpful even if after the fact. I mean, obviously we have all those hangars. They have to provide proof of insurance and what they do in it. And our leases stipulate aviation. You do bring up a good point about aviation related. The only ones that I know of that perhaps don't have a plane in, although I think they actually do have a plane in, is the research company out of Pelham that has a hangar there. And the other one would be the Air Squadron building, which we let the local air cadets use. Like my fellow commissioners, everything we know of in every other building has an active pilot in it or active planes. There certainly is the skydive, which does have planes in it for storage, and the planes that go up and take people diving, they do pay property tax. The building is ours and leased. So I understand and respect your need to keep that confidential, but it would be helpful for us if somehow we could find that, because I think they would be in violation of the lease, or it's just the definition of the term aviation. Thank you, Worship.
Okay, I'll leave that as it is. One last thing I do want to comment on, and that is that, I need my glasses, that when we talk about the property taxes, like all members of Pelham Council, I was very surprised when I learned that the Airport Commission had applied for and was granted a reduction in property tax to be paid to the town of Pelham. It is my belief that the town's representative to the board, Councillor Hahn, has a fiduciary commitment to the corporation of the town of Pelham, and as such should have made council aware that such an application was being made. I'm also extremely disappointed that town staff, when made aware of this application, did not inform council of this event. Council had every right to be aware of this action, as it is more money taken from the pockets of Pelham residents. I know it's great for the Airport Commission, but like I say, that's $10,000 now less that the Pelham residents are not going to be getting from this investment. I dare say that if I was to go down Main Street, Fond Hill, and ask 30 or 40 people, do you know we have an airport, and do you know we spend $27,000 of tax money subsidizing it? I'd bet a lot of money that not too many residents know we have an airport. So I'll leave it at that. Councillor Hahn?
And through you, Mayor, I recognize your intent there was to insult me. However, certainly there was no secrets whatsoever. In fact, our CAO, as Vin Clerk, was made aware that we used an organization actually to do some of the paperwork to help us with that 10,000 savings. The reason, and you're well aware of this as well, Mr. Mayor, and that is because the airport is in fact farmed, and it has been for many, many years. So because it is a farm and it's cash cropping, which you yourself would know about, they're able to get an agricultural tax or a farm tax. So that is what that is all about. And there were no secrets. This was brought to the attention, like I said, of the clerk and the CAO. And in fact, so much so that the CAO has asked me, and I'm sure Mr. CAO, you can attest to this, for information as to the organization that we use. So they did such a good job and they were so thorough. So please don't infer that anything was kept secret from you.
Well, I'm sorry, Councillor. I'd like to have a show of hands from other councillors who knew in advance that this was happening. We did not have a report.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor.
This is talking about the airport commission. This is not going after the integrity of another councillor.
Councillor, we're talking about budgetary objects, and we're talking about taxes paid to Pelham residents. And all I'm asking, your Councillor, all I'm saying is that this council was not made aware of any tax reduction. That's what I'm saying.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Isn't it your job to do your job to make sure that that information is given to you?
No, I don't believe that my job as mayor is to look after every committee, Councillor.
Well, let me tell you, you run the town. You should have known that there was a $10,000 credit.
No, I'm running the, you're right. You're right, Councillor. I should have known. It should have been information brought from the committee to council. You're exactly right.
This discussion is getting out of hand.
Yes, this is exactly, your Councillor, you're right. Let's, any other comments? Mr. Van Fleet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take a moment to thank all of City Council, or all of Pelham's Council, for sitting and listening to us. I'm extremely glad with some of the questions that you've asked. They've been difficult questions. We knew that coming into this meeting that you were going to be well versed on any questions that were going to be asked. Thank you very much for that, for the opportunity to answer those questions. If we haven't answered some of them correctly, please email any one of us and we will get back to you with an answer. We've got some direction from your council, I believe, as to what you're really looking for. We're here to cooperate with you. We're not here to argue with you. We're not here to bicker over dollars and cents or nickels or anything like that there. We're here to do the best job we can for the town of Pelham, the city of Welland, the town of Port Colborne, and the village of Wainfleet. And when we don't do that, then please let us know, and we'll change whatever we need. When I had a discussion with Mr. Olson last Friday, I told him, I said, look at our financial papers. I says, your financial record goes back 30 years. If we're doing something that's not quite right or you don't quite agree with, come to us and let us know. We're willing to change. All we need is a direction. Please, but I do thank you very much for the opportunity to present before council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And on behalf of I see Councilor Olson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple other comments that I think are constructive. First of all, I come from an aviation family, and I appreciate the qualities that aviation people have. And I had a chance to meet a couple of your I guess they were owners or certainly pilots or airmen at the airport the other day, quite by chance. And I've had a couple of letters from people. And I noted from your notice of minutes that you now have an advisory group, and I guess it's comprised of your users. And I think that's going to be one of the best things your best moves that could possibly be made with the airport, because it looks to me like we're stuck with each other. We got to make the best deal possible. And you got some of the greatest teachers and learners in the community who are members of your user group. I can guarantee it. My dad was all for safety and all for advancements in technology and care. And he was a real good example of what can come out of the community of air people, aviation people. I also want to add that I found a report from the Airport Commission, and I think it's dated the third quarter of 2018, and it was from the chair of the committee to reporting to the council, and it's signed by Richard Rybiak. And I would like to see something like that initiated as well. And I can hold it up to the screen maybe, but that doesn't tell you much. But it's entitled October 10th, 2018, and it's a report. And it's a report on the synopsis of issues and developments at the Niagara Central Dorothy Rundling Airport through the third quarter 2018 for your information. And clearly that was before the last election, and it's quite an informative piece of information. So I would like to leave it with that. And I'm pretty sure that staff and council would be very happy to see some kind of a master plan for the airport, fixed asset or a fixed asset additions forecast, what you need. And we'd like to see something, I think, in terms of finances. I'd certainly like to see a reduction in the amount we pay every year, because we're having to turn down things that would be useful to our citizens because of budget reasons. And I would like to say thank you to everybody for coming tonight, and to Leo for meeting the other day. We certainly had a long meeting, and I found it very informative and useful. And we disagreed to disagree on a couple of things. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hahn.
Through the mayor, thanks very much, Councillor Olson. Appreciate the remarks about the advisory group. And we're working on that. It's a kind of a recent phenomenon in the past few committee meetings we've talked about, or commission meetings we've talked about. The stakeholders there at the airport, the pilots and renters, are very keen on this, and so are we. None of us on the commission profess to be aviation experts. Clearly, none of us are pilots. So leaning on our pilot community is very important to seek two-way feedback and really to make it the best that it can be. So appreciate those comments.
Thank you. Councillor Court.
Yes, I would like to thank the committee for doing a great job and continue it. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Hildebrand. You're muted, sir. You might want to repeat that. You were muted, sir.
Great work you're doing, and for coming here tonight and facing some questions that are probably difficult, knowing how difficult it is to be on commissions in different situations coming from different towns. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you for the time you put into this.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Not seeing any. I would also like to extend my appreciation for the commission for coming tonight. And I would just close out to mention that we are all councillors in charge of taxpayer dollars. Thank you again, gentlemen. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Wank. Be it resolved that Council receive the presentation by the Niagara Central Dorothy Rundling Airport Commission update dated December 2020 for information. Unless there is discussion? For the vote, I would start with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
That motion is carried. Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to our next item of business, which is the COVID-19 update, Community Emergency Management Coordinator with Chief Lim Berner.
Okay, Chief, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, Senior Leadership Team, and members of the residents of viewing. Just if I could get a couple seconds of your time just to kind of give you a little shout out or a good news story is on Friday at the MCC, during a hockey event, an elderly or 67-year-old male suffered a cardiac arrest while playing hockey. The good thing on that, there was another player on the ice, was an off-duty firefighter. He did the assessment, began CPR. The staff went and got the public access defib and the proper equipment, and they, through the efforts of the firefighter and staff and some other bystanders, a shock was delivered, and by the time the medics had the gentleman loaded up and ready to go to the hospital, he was sitting up talking to us. So it was a registered save, and through the efforts of staff and the fire crews, there was someone there to enjoy Christmas. So I just wanted to mention that to the group.
Thank you, Chief. Yep, getting thumbs up from everyone, Chief. Do you have your report?
Yep, I do.
Okay, thank you.
Just go through a few things. So we had a pretty busy weekend. The last couple of days have been pretty hard numbers. As of today, Pelham is at a total of 90 cases. We currently have 13 active cases. We have one municipality with 0 active cases. Across the region, on Saturday, we had 65 cases. Yesterday, we had 71, and today we have 35 for a total of 2,610 cases, 358 active cases, 2,163 recovered, and 89 deceased. Across the province, we have about 144,000 total cases, with about 122,000 recovered, with 3,968 deaths. Countrywide, 467,000 total cases, 377,000 recovered, and we currently have 13,505 deceased. Across the region, our case doubling time is 41 days. Our reproduction rate is 1.4. That's gone up twice since last week. Our positivity rate is 1.7. Currently, the province positivity rate is 4.6. Where the region and the public health is dealing with 18 current outbreaks. They've resolved 96 of them. Infection-wise, 53.9% female, 46.1% male. Most of the cases are due to close contact, 65.8% close contact, community 23.7%. This week, the province and the region have put together a task force for enforcement. They're going to be spending today, tomorrow, and Wednesday traveling the region and inspecting hotspots and areas looking for compliance. And the federal government has announced that they're extending the border closures until January the 21st. That's the end of my report.
Chief, you left out the one big bright spot that happened, the good news story that began today. And that, of course, the first vaccinations against COVID started today.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, correct. I should have mentioned that across in Toronto and Quebec, they started out with the healthcare professionals, PSWs, and nursing staff. So they're going to ramp that up, and hopefully with any luck with supply, we'll get the vast majority of our frontline workers vaccinated as soon as possible.
Yes, a couple of hundred down, 38 million to go. Thank you for that, Chief. Any other questions, comments on the Chiefs? Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. The report, I don't know if I missed it or not, but did you give the like the age ranges for the bulk of the new infections?
Chief?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no. The bulk of the infections are still between the 20 and 39-year-olds. People under 20 are starting to add to those numbers. Unfortunately, the cases are starting to get into our retirement homes and our care facilities. There's a couple hospitals that have outbreaks on wings that are contributing to the numbers, but public health reports they have that. They feel confident that we have those things under control. And but our biggest problem still remains with the young people, the social gathering, the partying, and the kind of ignoring our rules and regulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any. I turn to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I do have a motion put forward by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that Council receive the COVID-19 update presentation from B. Limburner, Fire Chief and Community Emergency Management Coordinator for information. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote with Councillor Kaur,
Yes.
Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Stewart,
Yes.
Councillor Wink,
Yes.
Councillor Hahn,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. That brings us to our next presentation for COVID-19 update with our Chief Administrative Officer, Mr. David Cribbs.
Mr. CAO, you have the floor.
Good evening, Council. There are a couple of items to report on. I can inform you that your EOC and senior leadership team, which are largely the same people, have certainly been working on a couple of items for the last week, 10 days. Firstly will be the reopening after the holiday season. There have been a number of credible reports in the media with survey data indicating that somewhere around 30% of Canadians are planning to cheat on the guidelines, the social distancing guidelines over the holiday period, predominantly to visit loved ones. And of course, this creates a worry that the first 2 weeks of January will see a corresponding spike in numbers, that roughly 14-day period. To address that, the town, although it won't be changing its services outside to the world, we are making some changes around how we're going to try to staff operations to do everything we can to minimize contact, even beyond the stricter guidelines we have in place, to do our best to ensure continuity past the January 14th date. So those are in plan and being rolled out as we speak. In addition to that, we've been looking at what a potential return to red status would mean for town operations. Most of the impacts, in fact, effectively all of the impacts will be felt at the MCC. Under the red guidelines, we'd be returning to 10 people per facility. At the MCC, we're able to define the different rinks and functional areas as separate facilities for the purpose of the regulations. So we'll be back to more strictly controlled and reduced numbers at the MCC as a whole. That's likely to have a number of impacts. So if we do end up going to red in the next, at any point in time, that will have an immediate impact on pickleball, volleyball, public skating, the shinny hockey, and access to dressing rooms. All of those, unfortunately, will have to stop if Niagara moves into red. What can continue, albeit in a reduced form and format, will be basketball, which would be drills only, hockey, which would be drills only, figure skating, stick and puck, family ice rentals, provided there's no games or scrimmage of hockey during the family ice rentals. Meeting spaces can still be used by groups of up to 10. The walking track, albeit limited to 10, and children's camp, albeit limited to groups of 10 or less. So those are items we've been working on. We have the plan. We're familiar with the guidelines. That if we go to red, that will have some negative impact, not just on community access, but also on some financial repercussions. However, our partners in delivering these services, the various service clubs and organizations, they themselves aren't entirely clear what it would mean for them and their operations and their finances. So I can't really provide you with a specific report on that. Plus, it's an event that hasn't yet come to pass. But we're monitoring that, we're taking it seriously, and we're going to do everything we can to keep as many services open, and specifically within the MCC, as possible. That's my report. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Any questions, comments on his report? Councillor Hildebrandt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CAO. we're talking about the MCC specifically. And
Correct.
is Pelham minor hockey still operating? And on the schedule they were before, or have they shut down for the season?
I believe they're still, I'll defer to Mr. Cook, though. He knows lots of things I don't.
I don't know about that. Through you, Mr. Mayor, Pelham Minor Hockey is currently operating as per scheduled. They do about a 2-week shutdown coming up around Christmas. They are taking a little break. We have a meeting with them on Friday, kind of going forward with regard to ice rentals and some of those costs and what the impact is on Pelham Minor Hockey, but really can't comment any further on that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Cook. Any other questions? Not seeing any. I will turn to the clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that Council receive the COVID update presentation from D. Cribbs, Chief Administrative Officer, for information. Seeing no other discussion, calling for the vote, I would start with Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to our next item on the agenda, 5.1, which would be the minutes from the December 7th meeting. I do have a motion put forward by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. That would be for C20/2020, Council Minutes, December 7th, 2020. And Mr. Mayor, I'll ask you to call for any amendments or errors.
On the minutes mentioned by the clerk, is there any questions, omissions noted by any councillors? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will start with Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson. Sorry, Councillor Olson, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
That motion carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of any business arising from the council minutes. That would bring us to item number 7, request to lift council agenda items for separate consideration. So this would be when a councillor would like to lift something because they would like to potentially change the attached resolution.
Okay, on the consent agendas, is there any councillors who would like to wish any items? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, seeing that there are no items that wish to be lifted from any councillors from the consent agenda, the motion is put forward by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the December 14th, 2020 council agenda be received and that the recommendations contained in here be approved as applicable. Is there any comment or discussion?
Not seeing any, Madam Clerk.
Thank you. For the vote, I would start with Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
And Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to item 10.2.1. Report Established Reserve Fund for Firefighters, Life Insurance 2020-0189 Corporate Services. And the motion is put forward by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2020-0189 Corporate Services and that staff be directed to prepare the necessary bylaw for the establishment of a volunteer firefighter life insurance reserve fund, and that the reserve fund be effective for the December 31st, 2020 year end.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Madam Clerk. Any questions, comments from any councillors on this report? Councillor Hildebrand.
Here you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's an excellent recommendation.
Yes, Councillor, thank you for that. I agree with you 100% in this battle of getting reserves. No reason why we shouldn't have another battle on the front, and this is definitely a good cause for sure. Any other comments? Councillor Olson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the chief, the fire chief. This may not be the place for this, chief, but I was wondering if you have vacancies for volunteer firemen right at the moment, if you're recruiting.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we just actually finished a recruit class in the fall. In November 1st, we have a new class that started. So we probably won't be running another one for another year and a half.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. I wasn't thinking of myself. I'm past the calendar stage, so just.
I thought you were busy enough, Councillor Olson. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? If not, we return to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And for the vote, I will call on Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Definitely yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that brings you to your next item on the agenda, 10.2.2, Letter of Support for Inclusive Community Grant. The motion is put forward by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Kaur. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2020-0190, Letter of Support for the Inclusive Community Grant, and that Council provides a letter of support for the Inclusive Community Grant of $60,000 from the Ontario Ministry of Seniors and Accessibility. For discussion, Mr. Mayor?
Yep. Any questions, discussion on this grant application? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk. I turn to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the vote, I'll start with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. That does bring you to your next item on the agenda, 10.2.3. This is the ICIP COVID-19 Resilience Fund grant application. And I have a motion put forward by Councillor Olson, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2020-0192, Council Support for Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, COVID-19 Resilience Fund, and that Council support the Splash Pad project at Centennial Park in Fenwick to be funded partially by ICIP COVID-19 Resilience Funds for $112,331, and for the remaining $237,669 to be funded by development charges revenues as stated in the DC background study and included in the 2021 capital budget. For discussion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Any questions, comments on this report? I wonder if Councillor Hildebrandt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the question I have for the treasurer, are we having a budget for 2 splash pads this coming year? One for Centennial Park and one for Bond Hill?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we are. That is the proposal. The one for Fawn Hill at the Marlene Stewart Street Park, we're waiting to hear on the ICIP Cultural and Recreation and Cultural Grant. So yes.
Councillor? Any other comments, Councillor?
No, I was just wondering how much money we had allocated to both of them in total.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the one for Fawn Hill is part of the pool renewal. And so that project, actually, there's a 7-year window to do those, to renovate the pool and also add a splash pad. That one would be, most of it will be fully covered by the grant for that one.
And the Centennial Grant, how long does that period extend?
That one has to be done by the end of 2021. That one has to be done next year. So we have that in the DC study to be done. And the good news is that there's actually a grant that can help pay for the portion that the town would have had to pay for. So the grant is paying for that.
Oh.
So we have requested, we have been allocated that amount of money. We just have to apply for it. And they have confirmed that a splash pad is eligible for this grant.
So to the treasurer, the condition of this splash pad is conditional upon the approval of the grant. Is that correct?
Right, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stewart.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Director of Public Works. In Fenwick, I live in Fenwick, and I really would like a splash pad there. But do we have enough water infrastructure to add that splash pad in the park?
Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the short answer, yes. We do have the infrastructure in place. There would need to be a service that would need to be run to the pad, which we could undertake with our own staff.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this report? Not seeing any. I turn to the clerk.
Through you, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I start the vote with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, 10.2.4, Delegation of Powers and Duties. And I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2020-0186, Delegation of Powers and Duties, and that Council consider the draft Delegation of Powers and Duties bylaw and associated schedules outlining the administrative authority delegated to various municipal staff positions as detailed therein, and that staff be directed to present the bylaw for Council approval at the next regular meeting for discussion.
Okay. Any questions, comments on this report? Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I was just trying to find the delegation. I know I wrote down number 8. It has to be with regards to records oversight. I was looking for a delegation with regards to policies and procedures, and I presume that's all in the clerk's department because that's where the book comes from that we received, which I assume has all the policies and procedures from the town. Is that a correct assumption?
Mr. CAO, could you answer that one?
Well, we believe it's all of them. It's designed to reflect, the policy binder we provide to you is designed to accurately reflect the state of policy at the town at the time you assume office. So we haven't knowingly left any out.
Through you.
I hope that answers.
Madam Clerk?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, not to cut off the CAO. It is the clerk's department responsibility to prepare the policy binders and procedures, and it is our intent and understanding that all of the town's procedures and policies that are in place are reflected in that policy binder, and we certainly send out revisions or amendments as they come along and update the policy binders when needed that way.
Thank you for that, Madam Clerk. Councillor Hildebrand?
Through you. I know the number 8 calls it records oversight. I'm just wondering, should that also be called policies and procedures, or is that just my terminology that I like?
Mr. CAO?
We can certainly make that amendment quite easily, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Not seeing any. I'll just make the one comment that it was nice to see, Mr. CAO, that when it came to termination that we no one likes to see of employees, that council did retain the power of any members of SLT, and anyone below that, I believe you stated, is in the realm of the CAO. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The purpose of this document, which council has instructed us twice this calendar year to get done, is to create certainty for all parties, but particularly for staff and council vis-a-vis each other, with what I like to describe as our lane, a shared lane, and the council lane. So if termination works well, the pure council lane is hiring and firing the CAO. That's solely only you get to do that. And then senior staff, self-evidently, you have an interest in, you wouldn't want whoever's occupying the CAO position to make unilateral decisions in that way. You want to ensure that you have some role, both coming and going, to ensure that you've got a leadership team that you think will accurately deliver upon the directions you give the administration. And then the staff lane, which is to say, in this case, residing in the office I hold, deals with other staff members, and that's not something we normally discuss with the board of a $23.5 million corporation. So clear, your lane, our lane, shared lane. And this really helps everyone understand where they stand vis-a-vis each other, writ large across the document.
Great. Thank you for that explanation, Mr. CAO. Again, any other questions, comments? If not, I'll turn to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. For the vote, I start with Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. That brings us to our next item on the agenda, 10.2.5. That's the motion put forward by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2020-0193, Sign Bylaw Amendment, and that Council consider approving the amendment to Sign Bylaw 4199-2020 included on the December 14, 2020 Council agenda for discussion.
Okay. Any comments, questions on this? Excuse me. Not seeing any. I'll turn to you, Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'll start the call for the vote with Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
That motion carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that brings us to agenda item number 13, presentations and consideration of bylaws. I have a motion put forward by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration to the following bylaws, do here to read a first, second, and third time and do pass same, and that the mayor and clerk be and hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws. 1. Bylaw 4292-2020, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 3728-2016 to establish the 2021 fees and charges to be collected by the Corporation of the Town of Pelham, and to repeal bylaw number 4187-2020 as amended by bylaw number 4250-2020. Bylaw number 4300-2020, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a site plan agreement for the lands municipally known as 160 Highway 20 East, legally described as Part Block 3, Plan 59M-432, Parts 1, 8, 9, 10, 11, 16, 17, 18, and 19 on 59R-16280, subject to an easement and grows over Parts 10 and 16, 59R-16208, as in SN 489589, subject to an easement and grows over Part 15, 59R-16208, as in SN 48306, subject to an easement and grows over Parts 9 and 18, 59R-16208, as in SN 306187, Town of Pelham, Crown Grove Estates, Inc., file number SP08-3, bylaw number 3, which would be bylaw number 4304, 2020, being a bylaw to amend signed bylaw 4199, 2020, being a bylaw to prohibit and regulate signs and regulate the placing of signs upon highways and buildings. For discussion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you for that, Madam Clerk. Any comments, questions on these bylaws? Not seeing any, Madam Clerk. I turn to you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I start this vote with Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that does bring us to 14.1. This is notices of motions that were brought forward. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hahn, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Whereas
wait, excuse me. Usually you give the motion, first the council brings forth the motion, the option to read.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. Councillor Hahn, did you wish to read forth your motion?
Certainly, I can do that. All right. Whereas there is a call for the federal government to adopt 988, a national 3-digit suicide and crisis hotline, and whereas the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic has increased the demand for suicide prevention services by 200%, and whereas existing suicide prevention hotlines require the user to remember a 10-digit number and then go through directories to be placed on hold, and whereas in 2022, the United States will have in place a national 988 crisis hotline, and whereas Pelham Town Council recognizes that it is a significant and important initiative to ensure critical barriers are removed to those in crisis and seeking help, and therefore be it resolved that Pelham Town Council endorse the 988 crisis line initiative, and that staff be directed to send a letter indicating such support to the local MP, MPP, and local area municipalities to indicate our support.
Thank you, Councillor. Any comments, questions on this motion being put forward? Not Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a most appropriate motion. I'll be voting in favor of it, because I think there's a lot of issues of loneliness and isolation and disappointment and despair that's creeping into our society, and I think this is an important device to try and stop suicide, and that's why I'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Not seeing any, I return to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. For the vote, it starts with Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that brings you to item 19 of the agenda, being the confirming bylaw. I have a motion put forth by Councillor Hahn, seconded by Councillor Kaur. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and passed, being a bylaw number 4303, 2020, to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of council of the town of Pelham as its regular meeting held on the 14th day of December 2020. If there's no discussion, I'll call for the vote, starting with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And that motion carries. Through you, Mr. Mayor, that brings us to the adjournment, and I have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council be adjourned until the next regular scheduled meeting for January 11th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. Unless there's discussion?
Not seeing any?
I see none, starting with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hahn.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Mayor Junkin.
Yes.
And it is 4:43 p.m. and that motion carries. Mr. Mayor, you may gavel out the meeting.
Okay, and before I do, this is the last council meeting before the Christmas and the New Year. On behalf of council, I just wish to, I'd like to take this time to wish all residents to have a safe, joyous Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night,
Okay.
everyone.
Happy holidays.
Thank you, Holly. A great job.
Thank you. What?
Yeah.
What?